Week 2 of budget hearings is complete. Today on Conversations with Clint, we are going to talk a little bit more about all the exciting meetings that we had with secretaries here at the Capitol. All right, so thank you for joining us. We have a new addition to our podcast today, don't we, Representative Grove?
Yeah, the Jesse Topper.
The Jesse Topper.
The Jesse Topper.
Great who hails from Bedford County, Franklin County, and Fulton counties. That's where you serve, right?
That's right. That's correct.
So which county do you actually live in?
I live in Bedford County, represent the 78th District, has most of Bedford County, all of Fulton County, and a little bit of Franklin County.
And those of you who are watching at home, I feel bad. I ordered an extra mic stand for Jesse, but it got screwed up.
Of all the things that I've done this week, holding the mic is not all that difficult, so we'll be okay.
You got this.
We're waiting for you to deliver the line that will cause you to drop the mic. You're the only one who can.
Yeah, probably by the end of this conversation, you might.
We'll have one.
You might pitch it through the window.
You might owe Clint a few bucks.
Yeah. Representative Gabler, thank you for joining us again. We are here in Representative Causer's office because mine is being torn apart right now. So thank you, Representative Causer, for allowing us to use your office for our podcast.
They have beautiful scones.
They do.
We love it. Yeah, we wanted just the nice settings.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marty.
So we've just concluded the second week of budget hearings. We talked last week about why this is important and why it's important to have some level of transparency and for us to really be able to pick apart the budget proposal by the governor. I mean, he's the one that proposes it. We take that and we look at it and we draft that budget, a real budget for Pennsylvania. This week we had DEP, we had DCNR, we had Health and DDAP, PennDOT, DGS. We had the Liquor Control Board, DCED, Ag, and PEMA, all in. So it was a busy week.
Most people are probably asking, was all of that in English?
That's right. Yeah. I remember when I first started on Appropriations, I was like, who are all these people and what do they do? But
do you know, though? Now, do you know?
I have. After last year, I have a little bit better of an understanding.
That's winning. That's important.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, Jesse, talk a little bit about what you took away from all the hearings this week.
Well, this week and a little bit last week, I'm still struck by the fact that the administration seems to want to revert back to this borrowing scheme. Any proposal out there involves us borrowing money. So when he says it's a no tax increase budget, maybe not this year, but if you look at the budget he proposed, it will have massive tax consequences for us moving forward, for our kids, and so it's really not a no tax increase budget. It's a big borrow budget, and in the meantime, I still think, and especially when we talk to DEP, but even as we move through the other agencies, one of the major problems holding us back as a Commonwealth is regulation. And if we're able to roll back some of these regs and kind of stop this onslaught of legislation through bureaucracy, then I think we have a chance to really continue to benefit even more from the national economy, which is going strong. And when we get more revenue, I say all the time back home, people talk about revenue for the state. We don't put on bake sales on the Capitol steps. There's only one way that we get revenue, and that's through tax dollars. And the only way we get more tax revenue is when the economy grows. So I think instead of finding more ways to borrow and burden future generations, we need to find ways to continue to grow the economy. And I think that's where our question centered as the House Republicans on the Appropriations Committee was about how do we get government out of the way of this economy, not how do we look for more ways to insert ourselves into people's lives.
And one of the conversations that we had was it was specifically with DEP, I think it was, about fees versus taxes. I mean, that is one way that the state also generates income is through fees. And they've proposed so many increases in fees. But what is the difference between a fee and a tax? I mean, both at the end of the day affect the constituents of the Commonwealth that we all serve, and so it is a increasing fees all across the board kind of budget.
Yeah, I mean, fees and taxes both pull money out of the economy. They reroute to the government, and then government uses that money for what it feels are the priorities for that year. Right. So a fee is no different from a tax. It's on a specific entity rather than the general populace. I guess that's a a key difference. But if you're looking to fund ongoing costs through fees of that program, if you're not looking at the effectiveness of that program, you're just going to continue to jack up fees and continue to hurt that specific industry that the fees are collected on. And my line of questioning for DEP Secretary was that. I mean, you constantly talk about these new shiny programs under DEP. What about what you were supposed to do? All those things that you're supposed to do now, you're not doing it effectively. And that's basically what we've been saying from every single agency. New shiny project, new shiny program, but we're not taking care of what we're supposed to be taking care of year in and year out. Permitting, fees are supposed to pay for the permitting. Well, entities aren't getting their permits on time, which means they're not getting projects done, which means they're not doing projects in Pennsylvania, which means our economy's hurting, and we're not getting jobs out of it.
Yeah.
The fact that you can go to Maryland, the Socialist Republic of Maryland,
with however a strong governor that I think has been helping in that
yeah, I mean, he's actually eliminating regulations unilaterally. I mean, he doesn't have the General Assembly to do it, but he's been unilaterally reducing costs on businesses. They are,
and ours has been unilaterally increasing regulation,
right? But they're able to get through permits in a timely fashion, so they're getting the jobs, they're getting the building projects, they're getting everything we need in this state to move forward with. And when you bring it up, it's just non-answers from these agency heads that aren't doing their jobs.
That's right. And Representative Gabler, you had talked a little bit about, and you had some great questioning to several of the secretaries about really the false narrative that is coming about from this budget and kind of playing with some numbers. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we had an interesting conversation this week because, as you know, we're starting with the governor brings us a proposal, and he's going to sell it to us as this is going to solve all the problems of Pennsylvania. And kind of like Seth was saying, here's all these shiny programs that are going to be the silver bullet for everything. But then we get down into brass tacks, and I asked the Secretary of Agriculture, who I have great respect for, and I said, what would happen if we passed this budget as the governor proposed it? And the answer was, well, there's things missing. There's things in here that wouldn't happen, things that we depend on. So these new shiny programs are all over the place proposing to solve all the problems that we didn't know we had, yet here's all these core basic things like livestock safety.
Recycling funds.
Absolutely.
Program from 1980.
Support for the dairy industry, support for our hardwoods industry, and it's eliminated in the governor's proposal. So, and the Ag Secretary, to his credit, said, "Well, look, this is something that happens, but the expectation is that the legislature will add it back." And so my response was, "I understand that, and if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. But understand that the governor gave us a budget that increases spending by $2 billion over last year, and it doesn't even include the stuff that we're expected to have in there."
And so therefore it's out of balance. And the Department of Health said the same thing when Dr. Levine said, well, these are legislative asks that we essentially know will come back in. But if that's the case, then the budget that was presented to us as a balanced, no tax increase budget is actually effectively neither.
Right.
And that's exactly the case. So the problem that we have is that we have the governor telling us that he's delivered us a product that's going to make Pennsylvania better, when in reality, if we passed it as he proposed it to us, it would not serve the people of Pennsylvania. So that kind of highlights why are we spending our time in Harrisburg with these weeks of budget hearings and their long weeks. But we have the opportunity and we have the honor and the privilege of putting solutions together that will actually serve the people of Pennsylvania. And our response is going to be to write a real budget that works. And we have the opportunity to do that, and that's why it's great to have a few colleagues like you guys that we can work together, and we're going to propose a solution that the governor didn't have the courage to propose.
That's great. And we saw that in agriculture. I mean, today it was a $7 million decrease. That was the proposal from the government in agriculture, knowing that we're going to be replacing a lot of this stuff. Yet their line items for wages and benefits in his office and the agriculture both increased. So we're increasing those line items, but we're decreasing the
we're paying more to get less.
We're paying more to get less. That's
so even worse. We're paying for the administrative functions of Harrisburg, which doesn't benefit the residents. We're not funding Pennsylvanians. We're funding Harrisburg. We're funding the entrenched swamp of Harrisburg. That's what the money's going to. It's not going out there to help our farmers. It's not going out there to help, Miss Smith function on a day-to-day basis, whether it's,
To borrow some Hunger Games lingo,
Yeah.
or funding the capital at the expense of the districts.
That's exactly what's
That's
happening.
a good way to put it. Wow. that was deep.
we're gonna go to Hunger
Well, I kind of
Games
like that
now.
because we all have districts, so it
Yeah.
kind of works. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I liked it, Matt.
Thanks, Sam.
So one of the questions that we often talk about is, and I don't want to talk a ton about this, but I heard somebody, a colleague, speaking about the minimum wage this week, and we're really trying to create family-sustaining jobs and workforce development. DCED, they have almost $97 million in rollover funds, lapse funds from over the last 10, 15 years. And we could be investing that money into creating a workforce that would be available for these family-sustaining jobs that we need to create. But yet we sit and talk about minimum wage and what that is, how that really will affect people is, I'm thinking about the senior citizens. I was thinking about that the other night. I was like, they have no way to increase their Social Security, and their cost of goods and services is going to go through the roof.
Daycares will shut down. You're going to have loss of child care.
Right.
There's all kinds of factors that happen, and I thought it was interesting that when the other side did bring up minimum wage, they kept talking about businesses who have come to them and say, yeah, this wage is too low, so we've raised it. Well, that goes to our point of that's why the free market should take care of it, and government should not interject itself right now.
And no offense to businesses, there's a lot of big corporations, particular, that will have higher wages and want to have that government mandate to force out their competition. It's all about market share, right? So if I can force the small mom and pops who are struggling every day, force them to have a higher wage, they won't be able to pay their employees, they'll shut down. I gain that market share. So it's not, to me, it's just a false narrative of why some of these businesses support the minimum wage, and it doesn't hurt and does not help our small mom and pop businesses, which is the backbone of our economy.
And even if the small mom and pop is paying $12 an hour right now, if you put the minimum wage at $12, some of the people they're getting to come in and work hard in that bakery or work hard in that ice cream, that's tough work in some of those shops and some of those mom and pop retailers. Well, then they can go do a job that doesn't require as much work, doesn't require as much skill, and make as much money. That also puts the mom and pop shop out of business. We tend to look at that wage and we just see the number. But at the end of the day, what I look at is the government really going to step in to this free market and start to dictate wages? Where does that stop? I think it ends in chaos for our business community, and certainly, again, as we've talked about, Pennsylvania is still a little bit behind, even while the rest of the country is doing well economically, because we get in our own way. We're trying to reduce that, but this is just another roadblock for us to have economic success here.
Yeah, what frustrates me, you brought up $97 million of unspent dollars. We have how much in DCD's budget for programs and grants for businesses. We have $440 million, close to $500 million in labor and industry and workforce development programs. We have how many tax credits geared towards jobs and businesses. Add all that stuff up, probably at $800 million or something like that. Of public dollars going to take care of the skills gap and low-income individuals who are working. Like, the failure is government programs. Right. It's that base, again, going back to what the base job of those agencies are. They're failing, the people of Pennsylvania, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So then we have all these new government programs on top of the current government programs that are failing. When's it stop? It stops when agencies start doing their job, refocusing their allocations on things that actually work, and then start taking those. By the way, there's always going to be a minimum wage job, right?
Right.
Even at $20 an hour, if we set it $20 an hour, there's still quote going to be a minimum wage job. So let's stop talking about raising what that level is and start matching those individuals that want to have better living conditions with those high-paying jobs in all of our districts
that are all there. That's right.
And
with all of that government money.
Exactly. It's a question of focus. Are we going to focus on the minimum, or are we going to focus on we can do better?
Yep.
Because we know that we've got employers in this state that are looking for the people, and maybe we need to address a skills gap. Maybe we need to address how do we hook up the right people with the right opportunities. That's going to elevate people from surviving to thriving. And so that's been, I think, a great aspect of the conversation we've had this week is, look, the minimum is it's a data point, it's a number, but we can do better, and we can focus on doing better. But if we put all of our focus on the minimum, then that's all we're going to get. But like you said, we're spending $800 million as a ballpark figure on trying to enable people to do better, and we're talking about the minimum. Let's talk about what we can do to elevate people. And it was a great conversation we had with the Department of Community and Economic Development when we're talking about one specific example of a bill that's on the way to the governor's desk. It passed both chambers with huge bipartisan margins, and the governor is threatening to veto it because he just wants to see it a little different. I don't know. I mean, the DCD secretary, who's a great guy, obviously put in a tight spot, was kind of dancing a little bit, saying, well, the administration doesn't support it. But it's kind of exactly like the Shell cracker plant credit in Beaver County that created huge jobs and that the administration tried to take credit for. So we have opportunities to put people into really high-paying, family-sustaining careers that benefit everybody. And instead, we're talking about something that won't elevate people in their status in life.
And if you want to see that skill gap even widen further, take away the jobs that create the soft skills that we're talking about. You know, these high schoolers who are working at McDonald's. I mean, at the end of the day, McDonald's, Burger King, we hit the fast food places, but we've all gone in. You can see they're automating more and more, eliminating those jobs. But I talked to, of course, as I'm sure everybody can guess, I love my local ice cream stands, you know, in Bedford, Fulton County. But one of the owners like, look, this is how these kids are training to learn how to work is under my employ. And when you take that away, those jobs will go away, and we're going to widen that skill gap even more.
I'm extremely thankful for the first job I had, which was at a hardware store at minimum wage when I was in high school. And having the opportunity to work with people filling their propane tanks, loading big boxes into their cars, I was happy to do it. But it was a high school job. It was a high school job, and
it's not meant to be a family sustaining
career. What I question is,
Correct.
if big government had jumped in the way, would that employer in my town have been able to take a chance on a high school kid, or would have just said, you know what, no thanks, Matt, we'll find someone else?
But if any of these students perform in any way, shape, or form, man, the market is so competitive that they jump like right away. I mean, it's like boom, you know. So it's a big issue. We talked about it a little bit this week. It was definitely our goal to talk about figuring out ways to get people into high-paying, great jobs and getting rid of the roadblocks that are in the way.
So one other problem, and going back to Matt's point of kind of like the fake disingenuous budget, governor booked revenue on that.
Right.
$113 million. $113 million. So we have...
Which is absurd.
All this,
133.
133, that's right, 133. So we have all these line items that are going to be brought back in. Ag line items, Department of Health, they're all coming back in, right? And then you have a loss of $133 million of minimum wage revenue because...
Fake revenue that never is going to happen because it's not a real proposal.
Correct. We have the state police fee. It's another...
fake revenue source
that's buried in that budget. So, you know, the plan, you know, I'll give them credit, balances on paper, right? It's a paper budget. It balances on paper, but it's not sought in any kind of reality because we've rejected all those policies every single year for the past 6 years. So it's frustrating to see it because we know it's not going to happen, and it puts us at a huge financial risk moving forward.
Well, this is just the beginning part of the budget, right? And this was week 2, and we have one more week.
It's a big week.
Who do we have up? I didn't even.
Education, human services. We're going to have 2/3 of our 2/3 of our budget will be next week with just human services, education, and higher ed. The PASHE system, which we're looking to redesign completely. Next week's going to be the main event at the rodeo.
That's right. You said last week was a warm up. This was a little bit more of a warm up, probably, and it's the real deal next week. So I appreciate you guys taking some time here to just have a conversation about the budget, talk a little bit about the process. Jesse, you talked about ice cream. So, what is your favorite go-to ice cream that you are attracted to in the dairy aisle?
I tell you what, black raspberry probably tops the list, and anything with peanut butter comes shortly thereafter, but not combining the two. But
really interesting.
Black raspberry, you can combine chocolate chips, you can buy Oreos, a lot of things you can do in the whole Arctic Swirl Flurry world with black raspberry. And so you didn't think it would be that in-depth of an answer, but
we take this drop the mic moment.
Right.
Wow. Analysis of ice cream.
Listen, we can do a podcast on ice cream for 30 minutes. I can talk the whole time.
You take this seriously.
Wow,
Seth,
good.
how about you?
So my favorite's actually chocolate peanut butter, but my daughter she'll be 2 at the end of March. She has a peanut allergy. We found out she one of those peanut butter patties. She got into it, licked it, and she just started inflating. Wow. So we had to
no more peanut butter in the Grove household.
Grove household is peanut butter free, and it kind of breaks my heart.
Wow, yeah, that's sad.
Day.
That's
that is
rough.
a sad day.
We have EpiPens and no peanut butter.
Matt, how about you? Favorite ice cream?
Well, I feel guilty to say because I was going to say chocolate peanut butter, but
no, go ahead, enjoy it. Matter of fact, you should probably eat it in front of me.
You know what? I'll go with the chocolate raspberry. But
all right.
And in honor of your daughter, I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's all
Stay away from peanut butter. How about you, Clint?
For me, I would say Moose Tracks. Not the chocolate Moose Tracks, but the vanilla Moose Tracks. And I don't understand. So the outside of the container, and maybe somebody from an ice cream factory could explain to me why all the swirl is right in the middle of it and never on the outside. Because I feel like my kids go in there, they dip it out in the middle, and I don't get that chocolate swirl because it's all stuff that's the outside.
First of all, here's the key that I've always learned. When I have ice cream with the boys, is they're never the first ones to get into the half gallon, and that never happens.
So I will say there's a reason why we stopped getting the chocolate vanilla strawberry, because I'd come in and there'd only be vanilla left. I'm like, why are we getting the 3 flavors in one?
Yes.
So pet peeve, we've eliminated that one. So that one's also not allowed in the household. But no 3 flavors. You got to just buy one.
Make a decision.
This is quality.
This is
quality broadcasting. Thank you for conversations with Clint. I mean, you don't get any more hard hitting than that.
Right. That's right. Well, thank you everybody for joining in. We will come back next week after our final week of budget hearings with one last budget related. Well, it probably won't be our last budget related conversations with Clint. We have June. We have June. The whole month of June we have to deal with this.
We should actually take a complete blackout at the end of budget hearings and June, because that's what it kind of feels like in the General Assembly anyway.
That's right. But thank you guys for joining us, and look forward to tuning in next time. Thank you for watching, those that are tuning in online, and look forward to meeting with you guys next week.
All right, thank you.
Good, thanks, Bill.